Hello, my name's Curtis Corey. I'm a children's book author, and I wanted to read to you my book called Just Try. It's a fable about trying things that you might think are a little too hard. It's good for that young emerging reader in the 4 to 5 year old range. Frog emerges from the water to sun on a lily pad near the shore. What a beautiful day. I wonder what I should try to do today. Frog smiles, looks towards the shore. Along comes Rabbit, looking quite sad. Why are you so sad? Frog asks. Rabbit answers, it was cold and wet last night. I had no burrow to sleep in. I do not know how to dig one. How do you know you do not know? Have you tried? I have never dug one. How would I know? Sometimes you know more than you think. Maybe you should just try. Rabbit looks around, finds a small knoll, and begins to dig. Deeper and deeper Rabbit burrows until there is a grand home to rest, warm and safe from the rain. Frog, Frog, thank you so much. I did it. Frog smiles and jumps into the water. A fish swims slowly by, looking quite sad. Why are you so sad? Frog asks. Fish answers, my friend swam up the stream. I cannot follow. The current is too strong. How do you know you cannot swim up the stream? Have you tried? I am small and not very strong. How could I swim upstream? Sometimes you are stronger than you think. Maybe you should just try. Fish looks to the stream and begins to swim. Swimming faster and faster against the current, jumping over stones from pool to pool, fish finds strength. Frog, Frog, thank you so much. I did it. Frog smiles and swims to shore. A baby bird falls off a tree, looking quite sad. Why are you sad? Frog asks. Baby bird answers, I cannot fly. My siblings all learned to fly, but I just fell. How do you know you cannot fly? Have you tried? I am scared. What if I fall again? Sometimes you do not succeed the first time. Maybe you should just try. Baby bird looks around and climbs onto a high rock. Jumping off with wings flapping, baby bird falls to the ground. Again, climbing on the rock, baby bird jumps into the sky, flying high. Frog, Frog, thank you so much. I did it. Frog smiles and hops to some nearby trees. A beaver stands by a tree, looking quite sad. Why are you sad? Frog asks. Beaver answers, I need to cut down this tree and bring it to my dam. This tree is much too big. How do you know it's too big? Have you tried? I have struggled with trees half its size. How could I cut down one so large? Sometimes things look more difficult than they are. Maybe you should just try. Beaver takes a deep breath and begins to chew on the tree. Soon it falls into the water with a great splash. Beaver struggles, dragging it to the dam. Frog, Frog, thank you so much. I did it. Frog smiles and hops to some rocks. A snake slithers by, looking quite sad. Why are you so sad? Frog asks. Snake answers, my skin is so tight and itchy. I need to shed it, but I'm afraid it will hurt. How do you know it will hurt? Have you tried? I am scared. I do not want it to hurt. It's already tight and itchy. Shedding your skin should make it feel better. Maybe you should just try. Snake sees a rock and a stick close together. Hooking some loose skin on the stick, Snake rubs against the rock, slithering out of his tight skin, relieving the itch. Frog, Frog, thank you so much. I did it. Frog smiles and swims to the beach. A small child catches Frog. The child looks quite sad. Why are you so sad? Frog asks. The child answers, I cannot jump far like you do, Frog. When I land, I fall over. How do you know you'll fall over? Have you tried? When I do short jumps, I lose my balance. What if I fall and skin my knee? What if you land on your feet? Start with small jumps until you learn how to land. Maybe you should just try. The child squats down, pushing upwards and swinging arms. Landing without falling over, again the child jumps, this time even further. Once again landing without falling over. Frog, Frog, thank you so much. I did it. Frog smiles and looks at some trees. Frog becomes quite sad. Why are you so sad? Frog's new friends ask. Frog answers, I wish I could climb a tree and see the world from up high. How do you know you can't climb a tree? Have you tried? I am a simple frog. I swim, I hop, but I cannot climb. Sometimes what you are does not limit what you can do. Maybe you should just try. Frog hops to the tree and puts one foot higher than the other. Soon, Frog is climbing up the tree. Reaching the top, Frog looks down. Friends, friends, thank you so much. I did it. Maybe you should just try. The Motorcycle Adventures of Grandma and Grandpa Gnome. This is actually a true life story of my parents who started riding motorcycles in their late 50s and have traveled the country several times on several different motorcycles. And my mother asked me to ride a motorcycle once, so I turned them into gnomes. Grandma and Grandpa, their family all grown, grew restless living in their garden home. So much to treasure throughout the vast land, long dreamt of trips, soon mapped out and planned. Crossing the country and reaching each shore, they rode two bikes with a thunderous roar. Traveling north, down south, east and out west, every stop adds a patch to their vests. Treasuring landscapes, they go state by state, savoring charms of the first 48. Dragon's Tail twisting to Route 66, briefest of stops when a bike needs a fix. Redwood Forest to stunning Great Plains, Long Beach, Seattle to Key West and Maine. Mojave Desert to windy Chi-Town, around every corner, new wonders abound. Badlands, Grand Canyon across the Gulf Coast, it was the waterfalls they loved most. Thousands of miles, and at last they came home. Still, they had not lost their longing to roam. Something was missing. They looked out their gates. They had not finished all 50 states. Airplanes transported them to the last two, Alaska, Hawaii. Their main quest was through. Grandma and Grandpa planned out a new course. First, they would need a brand new iron horse. Built a strong trike, which they christened Moonshine. Wheels of 3, perfect, it fit them just fine. Stickers of lightning glow bright against black, shield on the front and a cask on the back. Yellowstone, Niagara, Daytona, then pull out a map and start over again. Riding long roads from one place to another, strangers, soon friends, they called sister and brother. Every winter they'd rest deep down south, warm Alabama in an old firehouse. Also treasuring summer breaks, they took campground up north, a place called Roaring Brook. Side by side, traveling two hearts as one, every new sunshine, a gateway to fun. Stories they share, the places they roam, show us together is where they call home. The end. I wanted to read my newest book, The Holiday School Bus. It's the first in what will be a series. This one is The Holiday School Bus, Santa's Village. Let me tell you the story about how I became the driver of the holiday school bus. One year, just after Thanksgiving, I wore a red jacket with white fur lining. Being a larger man with a beard, several students commented on me looking like Santa Claus. I, of course, played along. Maybe I am Santa Claus. I've been watching you to make sure you are not on the naughty list. Shouts echoed from the back of the bus. You're not Santa, your beard and hair are brown, not gray. The children and I joked about whether I was Santa or not over the next few weeks. Then I heard them talking about all the toys they were asking for. I commented, your lists are pretty long. It might be hard for Santa to make those toys. That is when a voice from the back of the bus said, Santa has elves, so he can make everything we want. We all laughed, but I could not stop thinking, my students just assume it's easy to make all the toys they are asking for. That night, I called Mrs. Claus. Yes, I have the Claus's phone number. I told her of my concerns. She thought a moment and said, tomorrow, after you pick up your last student, ask them if they want to see Santa's workshop. If they say yes, push the red button on your bus. But there is no red button on my bus. She just laughed and said, "There will be." The next morning, when I arrived at work, I saw my bus had a wreath on the front of it. I stepped onto the bus. It was completely decorated. There was garland hanging over the windows, snowflakes stuck on the glass, and even a small decorated Christmas tree lit up one of my front seats. A red envelope with my name on it lay upon the seat. I sat down and went to open the letter. That is when I noticed a red glow from my panel of switches. There, sure enough, was a red button glowing like a Christmas light. I tore open the envelope and read the handwritten letter. Mr. C, the missus told me of your call last night. I sent the elves to decorate and do some modifications to your bus. When it is time, push the red button. You will know what to do from there. See you at the North Pole. Sincerely, Mr. C. P.S. Do not worry, you will not be late for school. What was Santa up to? The thing is, when Santa asks me to do something, I do it. I trust him completely. One by one, I picked up my students. They boarded the bus with looks of wonder at all the decorations. I played Christmas carols, and we sang along with the radio. Once the last child boarded the bus, I turned off the music and asked them the big question. Who wants to go to the North Pole? Every one of my students screamed, me! Here goes. I reached over and pushed the glowing red button. To the North Pole! There in front of the bus, swirling colors of red and green appeared. Through the brilliant colors, I could just make out Santa's village. I pushed on the gas pedal and drove directly into the colorful vortex. Bright flashes of light filled the bus. The bus seemed to wave and warp around us as we felt the Christmas magic wash through the bus. The bus shook as we emerged from the vortex, landing on a runway packed with snow. The lights cleared and we saw a bright blue sky. The land was covered in a blanket of white. In front of us was a red, white, and green striped pole with a sign that read North Pole. As the bus came to a stop, my students started pressing their faces against the windows to see the wonders before us. There were small snow-covered cottages and shops, and in the distance was a large gray stone castle. I drove slowly through the village. The children were screaming about the elves and reindeer bustling about. I could not help but smile at their excitement. I announced, "Welcome to Santa's village." As we approached the castle, my students grew silent in a sense of awe. There waiting for us was none other than Mrs. Claus herself. I stopped the bus and opened the door. She stepped onto the bus and greeted me with a smile. Mr. C? I returned her smile. Mrs. Claus? She turned to the children. Hello, my friends. Who would like a tour of Santa's workshop? There was complete silence. My students appeared to be in shock. She giggled and motioned for them with her hand. Follow me. I stood up and directed the children to stay together and listen to what they were told. As we departed the bus, two elves, not standing much taller than the children, handed each of us a cookie. I was so proud. Every one of my students said thank you. We followed Mrs. Claus and the elves through the large wooden door into Santa's workshop. Sounds of saws, hammers, sewing machines, and carts being pushed and pulled filled the room. The sounds of the elves at work drowned out music playing through speakers hanging on the wall. Mrs. Claus led us through every room, explaining what each elf was doing. The children were so excited seeing all the wonders before them. Mrs. Claus again signaled, "Follow me." We entered a much quieter room, and she closed the door behind us. This one is the original room, one of the original rooms of the castle, the room where all the toy making began. She waved her hand to the elves before continuing. Today, I want you to help make some toys. The elves showed my students to small workstations. Every station had a small, simple wooden toy in pieces on it. There were small hammers, glue, and paintbrushes. Each student had an elf help them assemble and paint these simple wooden toys. Some struggled with a hammer, some used too much glue, and others smudged the paint. It took a long time for everyone to finish. I was proud of all their crooked, smudged, and wonky toys. They all tried so hard. Mrs. Claus laughed before saying, "Your bus driver told me you thought making toys was easy. It is fun, but it is very hard work. I hope you understand that now. I love how all your toys came out. Be proud of yourselves. Some lucky children will love the toys you made." She walked around congratulating each of the children. She led us to another door on the far side of the room. She turned, looked at us, and asked, "Who wants to meet Santa?" The children went crazy. They screamed with excitement. Mrs. Claus waved her hand, signaling for them to regain their composure before opening the door behind her. "This way." The children rushed to follow her. There before us, working hard building toys, was a robust man in red pants with a pure white hair and long beard. It was Santa working alongside several busy elves. He reached his hand to his back and stood up straight. He turned to face us and let out a deep, "Ho, ho, ho, who do we have here?" He greeted each child by name. Taking their hands, he brought them to an open space on the floor with several pillows placed in a semicircle. He directed them to join him as he sat on a pillow in the center. Santa spoke with the children for several minutes. They joked and laughed like old friends. He stood up and thanked them for joining him. He walked over to me where I was standing speaking with Mrs. Claus. He looked at me, "Mr. C." I looked back at him and reached to shake his hand, "Mr. C." We chuckled at each other because we're both Mr. C. He thanked me for bringing such great children and I thanked him for having us. He looked at Mrs. Claus and gave her a kiss and turned back to me. I need to get back to work. These toys don't make themselves. We all smirked, and Santa returned to his work. Mrs. Claus approached the children, motioning for them to follow her once again. She led us back through the workshop and into the village. We greeted the elves busy on the streets. We even got to pet a reindeer. At the bus, Mrs. Claus handed each of the children a certificate and a key. "This says you are official North Pole toy makers, and this is a key to the workshop." We boarded the bus, waving goodbye to Mrs. Claus and all of our new friends. I looked in my mirror while I started the bus. "Everyone sit down, please." The children were so excited they did not hear me. Again, in a louder voice, I repeated, "Everyone, please sit down." My students settled into their seats, telling each other stories of what they had just done, as if they were not all there together. They showed each other their certificates and the keys. They were so proud of themselves. I drove the bus through the village and back to the runway near the North Pole. As I approached the pole, I announced to the children, "Let's go home." I pushed the red button and the colorful vortex appeared before us once again. In my strongest voice, I projected, "Back to school." I pushed the gas pedal and drove directly into the lights. We arrived on the other side of the vortex at the exact place we left. I looked at the clock, and it was the exact same time as well. I drove to the school, arriving right on time. It was as if our adventure had never happened. I dropped off all the students with a wink and a smile. That is how I became the driver of the holiday school bus. Hello, I'm Curtis Corey, and I wanted to read to you The Busy Little Gardener, which is a story told from my son's standpoint when he was 4 years old about his love of gardening. When we moved to our new house, I was very excited. It was bright yellow. It reminded me of the submarine song my mom sang to me. It had a pretty flower garden in the front of a fence near the road. The garden was very full. There was another garden that my dad said was an overgrown vegetable garden. He said it would take a lot of work, but next year we could plant our own vegetables. I helped my dad dig out the weeds and move big rocks that were very, very heavy for me. Dad moved them very easily. I wanted to plant the vegetables right away, but Dad said we had to wait for spring. That is such a very long time to wait. Instead, Daddy let me help him with my big brother build a fence around our yard and a kennel for my dog Candy. Daddy says these were to keep me and Candy safe. We built a roof on our kennel and even a second floor with stairs for her to climb. We named it Candy's She Shed. I think that is very silly. Mommy wanted some flowers near it, so we built a little garden. I helped her plant some flowers in it. She said the flowers were annuals. That means they die every year. I love digging in the dirt and using the watering can. Mommy and Daddy said we can do more next year. Winter took forever. When it got warmer, Daddy started digging in the vegetable garden. He did a bunch of mounds of dirt on one side and something called raised beds on the other. We moved those heavy rocks to make paths to walk on. Daddy said I was a big help. He took our truck to a farm to get manure. He mixed it in with the dirt. He said that manure is old farm animal poop. Can you believe that? Animal poop, yuck. I thought it was going to be stinky, but it wasn't. He says it helps make the plants grow. I wanted to plant the seeds right away, but we can't. It was going to be over a month before we could plant in our garden. I can't wait that long. Daddy said he will start our seeds inside. We put dirt in old egg cartons and planted the seeds. I watered them every day. It takes a long time for seeds to grow. I get very excited every time I see a little green plant come through the dirt. Mommy and Daddy says we still have to wait to plant them in the garden a little while longer. I don't like to wait. The Easter Bunny must have been watching me. He saw that I liked gardening and thought I needed my own tools. In my Easter basket, along with my candy, were some flower seeds and my very own bag of garden tools. There is a red watering can and red and light blue tools. He gave me a little shovel, a spade, which is a shovel with a point, and something that looked like a fork. One of Mommy's friends gave me seeds as well. She gave me red and yellow sunflower seeds and Indian corn seeds. Daddy said I can plant the sunflower seeds in our vegetable garden to help attract the bees. He says we have to wait or else they will not grow. It really is taking a long time. I asked if we could plant an apple tree and blueberry bushes. I love it when we go to the farms and pick them every year. So while I waited to plant the vegetables, we bought 2 humongous apple trees and 2 blueberry bushes. Daddy had to dig the holes for the trees. They were very deep. He did let me drag one of the trees to the hole. I am very strong, but it was hard work. We put them in the holes, then Mommy and I pushed all the dirt into the holes. Daddy got the hose and let me water them. Candy tried to drink the water from the hose. That was very funny. I like watering the trees. One day, Mommy said, let's go to the front and look at one of the flower garden. There were all kinds of plants coming up. Mommy said there were bleeding hearts, tulips, and a lot of plants. We did not know what they were yet. Every day, we go back out and check. She showed me the tulip buds growing. She said that those would be flowers soon. The plants grew bigger and more plants started growing through the dirt. The tulips opened and we had 4 that were red with yellow inside and 2 that were all yellow. We had something called milkweed, chives, daylilies, a lot of fiddleheads, and lily of the valley. Every day was something new. We watched the big fuzzy bumblebees flying around nectaring the flowers. That is what I call it. They love the bleeding hearts. There were lots of things called gnats. Mommy says some people call them no-see-ums. I do not like the bugs. They scare me. I know the flowers and vegetables need them, but why do they have to buzz around scaring me? I hope we will get butterflies and hummingbirds when it gets warmer. Those pollinators I do like. Pollinators, that is what Daddy said they are called. He says that is why we do not pick the flowers and why he likes dandelions. He says that they are the bees' first foods, and lots of people like to eat them too. Did you know you could eat dandelions? One of our jobs is to water all the plants we planted. Daddy turns on the water and I drag the hose all around the yard. I spray flowers in our window boxes, my apple trees, the blueberry bushes. I water little pine trees we moved from another garden, and spirea and lilacs we planted to make a hedge. They are small right now, but Mommy says they will grow and we will have to trim them so they fill in. We even planted a couple bushes called rhododendrons or rhododendrons and hydrangeas. hydrangeas, or something like that. I water those too. That hose is heavy. I like to spray our cars while I'm spraying the plants. Sometimes I get Mommy and Daddy wet. I don't like that very much. One rainy day, Mommy and Daddy and I made bird feeders by collecting pine cones, and we used some of them to make the feeders with peanut butter and seeds. Daddy used some old plastic bottles he had around to make other kinds of feeders. When it got sunny, we put them all around the yard. When we are outside, we watch cardinals, blue jays, finches, and warblers. We can hear mourning doves and even a woodpecker. We all love the bird feeders. Sometimes we even see squirrels eating the seeds. Daddy says we can build a birdhouse or two so the birds have a safe place to live. It is all a lot of work gardening our house. I like it a lot. I like the flowers and the dirt. I like watching the birds and even the bumblebees and other insects, if they would just stay away from me.